Hi, I'm Warren Whitlock, and this is the Emerging Technology Podcast. And today we're going to talk about some process automation, robotic process automation. Sounds interesting. First, I got to tell you about what I did yesterday. I was something that I thought was fairly low tech. It's come time that the doctor said I needed to have my heart checked. So I went and first of all, they put me on a machine and put something in me and looked at my heart. Nuclear is what they tell me they call that. And then after that, they said we're going to do the stress test. And I go into the room with the treadmill, dreading it. I've never had one in my life, but the idea of running until exhaustion on a treadmill never seemed attractive to me, other than the fact that good to test your heart. So I was glad to be there. And they gave me another shot and said, "Watch out, you'll probably start to feel a shortness of breath." And 36 seconds later, they said, "Are you feeling short of breath?" I go, "Yeah, maybe a little bit." I understand. Ask a friend. Sometimes people get exhausted from this. Okay, so this is still a fairly physical human to human experience, but they gave me they put me back on the machine that looks at the heart and said, "Okay, fine, we're done." And I didn't have to do the treadmill. And that was fairly easy. So I'm thinking, wow, that's good. No big deal about technology. Then yesterday, I had to go back for the third part. It's called Echo. So it uses a sonogram. So they put a machine on there that makes it look like they're looking for a fetus inside me, and there wasn't one. And they're looking at my heart, and I'm watching the screen and amazed at how many different pictures of my heart they could possibly take. Just when I thought, wow, that's it. That's more than anyone can imagine by pointing a wand towards a heart. And all the time she's looking at the screen and marking points and drawing something, I don't know, measurements of some sort. And then she puts the wand under my rib cage and points towards my heart and starts doing it at least as many that way. By the end of this, they got a 100 pictures of my heart. And so far, heart was there, was beating. I'm expecting a results of we didn't find anything, and just pretty boring there, but gave me a lot of time in the, I don't know, 20 minutes that this took to consider what that person's job was. Her job is to all day long, and of course, there's all the planning, the appointment, the getting me there, and I'm there, I'm on the table, and she's spending 20 minutes to wave a wand around and point it, try to draw curves on a computer screen. Remind you of anything? It's like what they do in digital art. Have you seen digital art lately with what they're doing with the GPTs? Wow, they do a lot better. I heard that radiology and some other things that we were doing better with what the computers were capable of. But now, wow, absolutely everything she done could have been done by a machine. Really nice that she was doing it and holding the wand. Made me feel comfortable about the whole thing compared to the other one had a machine that positions itself over my heart. I could get used to not having a person there, but it was nice. And I got thinking, wow, most of her job of what she just did here would be done better by a properly trained AI. Remember, she's not diagnosing. She's not telling me that I have a heart attack or that I'm going to have a heart attack or whatever bad things could be happening. She's just guiding a machine that's showing her what to do. She had another computer screen open and obviously well trained, very smart person doing a good job, high tech job that is just destined to go away. So with that, I'm wanting to talk a bit about that and emphasize where that actually makes it good. Let me flip back to something I've had done since I think second grade. I started wearing glasses, and so half of that time, I don't know, what did we say? First 20 years with glasses, and there's been contact lenses ever since. And then they invented one that stays in my eye And I woke up this morning seeing just fine. Maybe I have to blink a couple of times to get them started, and then I can see. And when I go to see that doctor, he takes me to a machine and it reads and tells me what my vision is. And he's checking for the other things, glaucoma and whatnot. But there's 3 machines he uses in one room, and I've been seeing him for 20 years, and it's been this way most of that time. Machine has gotten better. He used to say, "Yeah, we're just trying this machine," but basically it's doing his job for him. Then he takes me and puts me in the chair, and puts the big apparatus in front of my face, and better here, better there. And I'm thinking, like, I'm not good at this. You asked me to make a quick decision like that. If one's fuzzy and one's clear, fine. But if both are pretty much clear, I don't know. And I always tell him, I always tell every doctor that's ever done this to me this, what if I fail? What if I don't get this right? It's all depending on me, the least trained person in the equation. And those machines are doing a better job. Yet here it is, 20 years on, he's using it. So 2 things out of that. One, that you're going to have technology in your job. That's for sure. 2, don't worry about your job going away overnight. It's just going to get a lot easier to do. And you'll be more like the optometrist. And I don't know what happens when the technician who worked for somebody gets. So let's talk about RPA, which is robotic process automation. It's not a term I hear a lot, so don't put that in your glossary as something you need to memorize. But the concept, I'm sure you've heard about. That's when you use software to create a bot to do anything that's repetitive. And especially any rule-based something that you have to do over and over again. And think about it, the part of your job you hate is not the creative work or the dealing with customers or making progress kind of thing. Maybe it's dealing with some of the people you have to deal with could be a pain, but wouldn't that go away if those meetings weren't about, did you fill out the TPS report correctly? And so let's look at some of the ways that it's coming along now, because as we just discussed, I see it everywhere as ways we can make a job a lot better. That technician working on me will be there when things make her job easier. Heck, it's a lot easier than it was 10 years ago or 40 years ago. And now it's going to become even easier. So rather than worrying about what AI and automation is going to take away, let's look for ways that it can help us. And if you're on the side of using that first, whether as a business owner putting it into your business or an employee doing your job and looking to get a promotion, you're going to do best when you learn how to use these rather than the dragging your feet, hey, I'm doing okay, why rock the boat attitude that most of us take. And I've been there myself. But let's look forward and you'll start seeing that it's everywhere. For instance, anytime you got to enter data, let's use another doctor's office example. I probably have mentioned before because every day I tell people about this. Won't it be nice when you can go to see the specialist that your doctor recommended you go to see, or you got a new dentist or whatever it is, and you don't need 6 pages of paperwork telling them the things that you just told somebody else the last time you went to see a doctor. Those of you who are fortunate not to see doctors on a regular basis, no big deal. But between my wife and I now, we're getting to that age where we're checking out everything, making sure we're not going to expire before our desire to be alive does. But we do this all the time. And every time it's a clipboard to fill this out. Just went back to a doctor last week that I saw 3 weeks ago, and they handed us a clipboard with 3 pages to fill out and updating, checking on, I don't know what, but that can go away when that data is stored in a secure way and you can just transfer it to them. So and you can do some good with it, because when you stick that paper in a file cabinet, it's never going to do anybody any good. And also I worked, decades ago, we had scanning systems and we were able to, Xerox, I think, spoke about taking paper out of the process. and eliminating a paperless office is what they called it. And we were going to scan everything, and then you could OCR everything. And now it's commonplace. If I do get a piece of paper from somebody like that, I take a picture with my camera and throw the piece of paper away. Camera reads it, does the OCR, optical character recognition, reads it. I can search on data that's in there. I can find anything that I need. Why keep paper around? If you're younger than me, you probably are already doing it this way. Form filling, we did a lot of work in the 80s with trying to get a form onto a computer rather than paper. And it was a business in the 80s and the 90s of actually taking paper forms and converting them into a computer form. Later, that became an online form, and that's pretty common today. So we're already seeing process automation. And the reason you say robotic process automation, we're looking for the things that a robot could do. Not necessarily that you're going to eliminate the people altogether, but it's just a job you don't need to spend time on. Keeping files in folders, the large file rooms full of paperwork. Still a lot of them around because of the attitude of the computer, the digital copy could go away. But you could have a fire in a file room. So there's no reason to have a paper copy if you have properly documented whatever you need to do to make that possible. That should the need arise, you can find that what was on that piece of paper because the data has been stored and backed up so it can't go away. They say currently optical type disc like DVDs and CD-ROM are going to be with us as far out as they can measure. They degrade over time somewhat, but the physical steady CD, once you burned it, is going to, that's what they call burned. You can't go back and change very much. And then they made them rewritable. So some of them can be, but for the long-term storage media, don't even have that. And everything that's online, I know I don't have to worry about finding a file in my office because I've got 4 different copies of it in different places with systems. And these are very old files that I can find that way. Finding the new and the current stuff sometimes gives me fits with organization. I look forward to having a bot that can go through, organize things, tag things, read things so that it can find what I need. When you ask your digital twin, your assistant, to find something, they've read everything that you've ever read and have a knowledge of where to find that information. And they can spit it back out at you and show you the reference, show you the original document, whatever is needed. So no more storage of paperwork. Anything that's copy and pasting. Have you done this? Here's a list of items. Please enter them into the spreadsheet. Now, actually, I've done this with, I think I used ChatGPT for it and gave it a lot of data and asked it to arrange it into a spreadsheet. I find some of that data so dirty that even having an AI do most of the dirty work requires still some work to make it usable. But to make it useful, I can do that in 30 seconds instead of 30 minutes, having to type it in. And I'll tell you for sure, if I'm faced with having to type in things for 30 minutes, there are going to be errors. No matter how hard I try, no matter how much focus I give it, that's just brain power that could be used someplace else because I just will not get it right. And the human error there is just the biggest thing we need to worry about. When you get an email that goes to more than one person, that's a process automation. The email routing looks at the first name and sends it, looks at the second name and sends it. Can you imagine? If you need to send an email to 10 people, you got to send it 10 times. Oh, we just don't put up with that anymore. With a mailing list, I put in a template, I put in a message I want to send, and probably aided by my LLM checking it and making sure that it has the right tone. And then when I get it right, I send it out and go to 1 million people, and they all get an individual email. Always opt in. but that also can happen with text, with everything else that you get a lot of. You can contact people. The phone trees of yesterday are gone. Do you know what a phone tree is? We used to have one person call two people and have them call two more people to get a message out fast about something. Now it's just there. We live in a wonderful era of doing that. So many things that I take a look at of how we did this back when, say, I graduated from college back in the Stone Age, and we didn't have email, we didn't have faxes, we didn't have computers at all. And we definitely didn't have a phone you could carry on your person and all of that there. Now we have all the data there. Next, we're going to have it actually doing more things for us. Uh, and so let's take a look at what else is left. You need a report. That's probably the mislooked thing I've seen as I've automated things over the years is people put a whole lot of work into making sure the form looks right and people want to fill it out and then it goes through X, Y, and Z on the process and does whatever it was supposed to do, and then it's done. I say XYZ instead of ABC because that's it. It's done at Z. And really, what we ought to have is a dashboard. I know that's what I want, a dashboard. Every morning I sit down at my screen or I ask for it from my digital twin, and I get the information I need, I care about, the news tailored to exactly what interests me with a few things for general knowledge, keep track of the world, and that it's for me and it's up to date. I know today when I look at something, when I read a book, I'm checking the copyright date because I've read a lot of books that are 50, 100, 1,000 years old. Some of these texts have a lot of wisdom in them, but when I'm reading about what I care about most right now, which is technology, just read a book that was written in 2020. I thought it was ancient. There was nothing incorrect in the book, but there were some there was you could sense the awareness of it hadn't seen things. The things that had changed in 4 years since the book was published were just immense. In fact, authors I've worked with recently have had a problem getting something done, working with one right now, where the book is to be have a pub date of the end of July instead of waiting 6 months or 2 years after it goes to the publisher. Publisher is arranged to take edits on it up till sometime coming up real soon, it being late June as I record this. So within the next few weeks, the book is going to be edited, submitted, written, and off to be published, which it wasn't that long ago. We couldn't physically do that, even if we lined up all the crews to do something. There was occasionally something where something would be newsworthy. The Pentagon Papers, I remember, that they wanted to release the full text of the Pentagon paper in the 70s, and it was out, and it was a wonder that it was out only in months after the event happened, rather than the years it would normally take. Today, it's that quick. If I'm publishing a book, when I say it's done, I upload it to Amazon, it's for sale immediately. There you go. But let's not talk about just book. Let's go further. What about the social media posts? Those are instantaneous as soon as you do it. One of the things that just changed on Twitter, which now X, is you can edit things after you post them. One of the advantages to it to me was that typos and all, I could post something, come back and post something as addition to it, but it was immutable. Once I posted it, it was out there. You could delete things because of all the reasons you might want to delete something, but you couldn't correct it. And I loved being like that, but now it's correctable. But a lot of things that happen, even your deletions are stored someplace and just they know about that. The latest book I'm reading is about secure technology. It's another episode in and of itself that the FBI owned the largest provider of secure phones the drug dealers used to talk to each other, and the FBI owned it. You do the math. It didn't turn out well for the criminal but brought up all sorts of questions about what we're going to do with that. And it went from them taking pictures of a text on a criminal's phone that they'd confiscated to actually getting to where they knew every letter typed was known by the FBI. And boy, if what you don't have to be a conspiracy theorist to start thinking of ways that could go horribly wrong. But we're talking about the positive ones, so let's get back to what more calculations. Oh boy, that's there. Can you imagine not knowing when something happened? We're so much better than when I was a kid. Boy, you know, going to school was about learning facts and dates and history and formulas and what were the symbols on the periodic table and all sorts of things, math equation, drilling again and again. That's not how our kids are going to learn. The- and our grandkids, in my case, they're going to learn how to get the knowledge they need when they need it. And we need to be able to train them to think like that. And so a complete change in how education works. Again, another episode. So the secret to the RPA version of all this is finding some way to automate it so that if you have to take things, if you got an inbox and you always need to work on the oldest first, you come up with a system so the bottom of the inbox has a slot that'll send out the oldest piece of paper that's in the inbox. That's a crude and not very practical explanation, but there are paper handling machines that take that into account so that it works in a certain order and keeps things in a certain order. If you want to photocopy contents of a file, you want that file to be in the same order when you get done with it as it was when you put it in. And so these considerations have been there. But anything that's a human interaction can be done, whether or not it's by a machine, by a mechanical machine, by software, or by just having the human handle things in a certain way. It just makes things more efficient, less friction, and gets us back to the things that really matter. Wrapping up today's episode I hope that my cardiologist tells me that the tests prove nothing and that I'm healthy. And I'm hoping that when you do your job, you start looking at ways where you can have everything in this episode be a nothing. It's just taken care of. And that's the way it's going to be. Put it aside, let the system take care of it, and then you can get on with making the world a better place or enjoying life, your choice. That's it for today's Emerging Technologies. I'm Warren Whitlock.